If you want to speak smarter and influence people effectively, this audiobook is for you. You will learn how to think before speaking, read the room, use silence to your advantage, and structure your words for clarity. You'll discover how to connect with others emotionally, shape the story you tell, and use language to create impact. You'll gain practical tools to command calm, lead through listening, and speak with purpose in every situation. Each lesson is designed to help you communicate with confidence, clarity, and influence. By applying these strategies, you can improve relationships, make stronger impressions, and achieve your goals faster. Stick with this guide, and you'll see real changes in how others respond to you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a tip that can transform your communication and your life. Number 1. Think before speaking. Thinking before speaking is the mark of true intelligence. It is not merely the act of pausing before words emerge, but the disciplined art of understanding what deserves to be said, when it should be said, and how it should be expressed. Most people speak to fill silence, to be heard, or to prove a point, but those who master the psychology of communication speak to bring value. Every word carries weight, and every sentence has the potential to heal, harm. Speaking smart begins with mastering the space between thought and speech, the sacred gap where wisdom lives. The ability to think before speaking is not a talent. It is a habit forged through awareness. A person who reacts without thought gives control of their emotions to the moment, but one who pauses and reflects before responding holds the power to shape the moment itself. This is the foundation of emotional intelligence in communication. When you slow down your instinct to respond immediately, you allow reason to rise above impulse. That single pause can transform an argument into understanding, a conflict into connection, and an ordinary conversation into meaningful influence. Before words leave the mouth, they travel through the mind. That is where they must be tested. Ask yourself simple but profound questions. Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? Does it serve the situation, or just my ego? The mind of a disciplined communicator filters words through clarity and purpose. This mental filter doesn't suppress honesty, it refines it. Honesty without empathy is cruelty disguised as truth, but honesty delivered with thoughtfulness becomes a bridge to understanding. Thinking before speaking also requires understanding the emotional temperature of the moment. Not every truth must be spoken in every circumstance. Timing shapes impact. A wise communicator reads the emotional current of a situation and adjusts their tone accordingly. If the listener is defensive or emotionally charged, blunt truth may close the door to dialogue. But when spoken with timing, patience, and calm, the same truth can open hearts and minds. This is not manipulation. It is mastery of empathy, the skill to make truth receivable. The challenge is that most people equate speed with intelligence. They believe quick replies show wit and confidence. But true confidence lives in stillness. A calm, thoughtful speaker holds far more authority than a fast, impulsive one. In moments of tension, the smartest person in the room is not the loudest. It is the one who controls the tempo. Silence, used deliberately, is a powerful communicator. When you pause before answering, people listen more intent. They sense weight behind your words because you've shown that you don't speak carelessly. Consider how the most respected leaders and communicators behave. They don't rush to fill the silence after a question. They take a breath, reflect, and then speak with precision. That pause signals strength. It shows that their words are chosen, not spilled. In conversation, the pause is not an absence of communication. It is a message in itself. It says, I value this moment enough to think about what I say next. To develop this skill, practice the discipline of conscious response. When you feel the impulse to reply quickly, especially in disagreement, slow down, feel the tension rise, acknowledge it, and breathe. Give yourself the gift of a few seconds. That small act of restraint creates space for wisdom to enter. Over time, this habit strengthens your emotional control. You'll find that situations which once provoked you now pass through your awareness with calm objectivity. This is where true mastery begins, when your words are no longer driven by emotion, but guided by intention. Thinking before speaking is also about understanding the power of perspective. Every person sees the world through a lens shaped by experience, emotion, and belief. When you take a moment to consider how your words will be received, you demonstrate empathy and intelligence. The wise speaker doesn't simply aim to express themselves, they aim to be understood. This requires stepping out of your own frame of reference and viewing the situation through another's eyes. Doing so transforms communication from an act of expression into an act of connection. Another layer of thinking before speaking lies in understanding consequence. Words can outlive the moment they're spoken. A careless comment can erode trust built over years. A harsh tone can wound deeper than intended. A thoughtless statement can close opportunities that might never return. Before you speak, imagine your words as seeds. Some will grow into understanding and respect. Others may plant resentment and division. The soil you plant them in is the mind of your listener. Once the seed is there, it cannot be unplanted. Choose your words as you would choose seeds that nurture growth, not weeds that choke the roots of trust. Smart speaking is also rooted in simplicity. Thinking before speaking allows you to strip away the unnecessary. Complexity often confuses. Simplicity clarifies. The more you think before you speak, the clearer your message becomes. People remember clarity, not clutter. When your thoughts are organized, your words flow naturally. Speaking smart is not about using grand vocabulary or complex phrasing. It's about making your meaning unmistakable. The best communicators make people feel, "I understand exactly what they mean." That feeling builds influence far greater than any sophisticated language ever could. In everyday life, practice mental drafting before responding. When someone asks you something, mentally form your answer, review it briefly, and then speak it. This habit trains your mind to process language consciously. You'll start to notice how certain phrases might sound arrogant, harsh, or confusing when replayed in your mind. This awareness sharpens your judgment and helps you align your tone with your intention. Discipline is the backbone of this practice. Thinking before speaking is not a switch you flip. It is a muscle you strengthen. In stressful situations when emotions rise, that muscle is tested. The mind may urge you to react quickly, to defend yourself, to assert your view. But remember, reacting is impulsive. Responding is intelligent. One protects the ego, the other serves the outcome. Train yourself to respond. Every time you choose patience over impulse, you reinforce your control. Over time, your composure becomes your power. This mastery also extends to self-talk. The way you speak to yourself internally shapes the way you communicate externally. If your inner dialogue is impatient, critical, or chaotic, that energy seeps into your conversation. But when your thoughts are balanced, clear, and intentional, your speech reflects calm authority. Thinking before speaking begins with thinking before thinking, cultivating a mind that is orderly and disciplined. In the professional world, this habit distinguishes great communicators from ordinary ones. A leader who speaks without thought creates confusion and mistrust. A leader who speaks with reflection builds respect and loyalty. In personal relationships, thoughtless words often cause unnecessary pain, but thoughtful communication builds intimacy and understanding. In both arenas, your words define your character. To apply this daily, develop micro habits that keep your awareness alive. Pause before answering questions, especially when emotions are high. Replace reactive phrases, like "you're wrong," with reflective ones like "I see it differently." Practice summarizing what others say before responding. This slows your mind and ensures you truly understand before you speak. Keep a short moment of silence after someone finishes talking. It shows respect and gives your mind space to process. Over time, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your presence will begin to command quiet attention. People will listen more deeply, not because you speak louder, but because your words carry intention. You'll feel the difference too. Conversations will become less draining and more meaningful. Conflicts will turn into opportunities for insight. You'll no longer chase validation through speech. You'll earn it through calm authority. Thinking before speaking is more than a communication strategy. It's a way of living. It teaches patience, humility, and wisdom. It transforms speech from a reflex into a deliberate act of creation. Every word becomes a reflection of your inner state, your discipline, your clarity, your respect for truth. In a noisy world, the person who speaks with thought commands rare power. They bring calm to chaos and meaning to confusion. Their words don't compete for attention. They invite it. To speak smart is to think deeply, and to think deeply is to live consciously. Before your next conversation, pause, not out of hesitation, but out of mastery. Because in that brief, deliberate silence before you speak, you are shaping not only your words but the world they will touch. Number 2, reading the room is the invisible art of understanding human energy before it speaks. It is the ability to sense the unspoken language of presence, the micro-expressions, subtle shifts, and quiet moods that shape every interaction. People communicate constantly, even when no words are exchanged. The skilled communicator listens not only with ears but with awareness. This awareness is what separates those who simply talk from those who truly connect. To read the room means to understand the temperature of emotion, the rhythm of attention, and the direction of unspoken thought. It is psychological intelligence in motion, the practice of feeling before acting. Every space holds energy. Walk into a meeting, and you'll feel it. Some rooms hum with excitement. Others carry tension so thick it slows the air. Most ignore these signals, rushing to speak to fill the void, to take control. But the wise observer pauses, scans, and senses before participating. They know that success in communication depends not on what is said, but on what is understood. When you learn to tune into these invisible cues, your words start landing exactly where they should. You speak with alignment, not resist. Reading the room begins with observation, not interpretation. The first mistake many make is assuming they already know what others feel or think. Real awareness has no assumption. It watches with calm curiosity. Notice posture, who leans in with interest and who withdraws with crossed arms. Notice eyes, where do they travel when someone speaks? Observe rhythm. Are people relaxed or restless? These signs reveal emotional truth more reliably than words ever could. People may disguise thoughts with polite phrases, but their body language tells the story they're not ready to say. To master this art, sharpen your attention to micro moments. When someone smiles without warmth, when a person avoids eye contact during a critical point, when a group's collective energy drops after a particular comment, these are clues. Don't rush past them. Emotional awareness grows through stillness and humility. The more you train yourself to see before you speak, the more sensitive your mind becomes to subtleties that others miss. Empathy is the foundation of reading the room. It's not about analyzing people like puzzles. It's about feeling their state as if you were standing inside it. When someone speaks in a meeting, feel the pressure behind their words. Are they confident or defending themselves? When you meet someone new, sense the energy they bring: open, cautious, guarded, curious. Empathy allows you to adjust your tone, body language, and pacing to meet others where they are. This alignment builds trust faster than any rehearsed charm ever could. A common sign of poor communicators is blindness to emotional context. They talk without noticing that the audience has stopped engaging. They keep pitching ideas to people who are clearly tired or distracted. They tell jokes in moments that require seriousness. This blindness isn't because they lack intelligence. It's because they are inwardly focused, consumed by their own message rather than the energy of those listening. The moment you stop paying attention to yourself and start observing others, your communication transforms from performance to connection. Adaptability is the heartbeat of reading the room. Once you sense the energy, you must know how to adjust. A skilled communicator shifts tone, the way a musician adjusts rhythm to match the song. If the atmosphere is tense, they lower their voice, slow their speech, and soften their presence. If the room is dull, they lift the energy with enthusiasm, warmth, or humor. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional calibration. You are not changing who you are shaping how your energy fits the moment. In every interaction, there are layers: the words spoken, the emotions felt, and the intentions hidden beneath both. Reading the room means listening across all three levels. Sometimes people say "I'm fine" when their tone cracks with exhaustion. Sometimes they nod in agreement while their jaw tightens in resistance. To notice these contradictions is to hold a kind of insight that others overlook. That insight gives you the power to navigate tension before it explodes and to comfort pain before it asks for help. The key to accurate reading is neutrality. The more judgment you bring, the less clearly you see. If you enter a conversation already expecting hostility, you'll interpret every movement as aggression. If you crave approval, you'll mistake politeness for genuine connection. The quiet observer lets go of bias and simply watches. Clarity lives in calm perception. When your inner world is still, you can read the outer world without distortion. Practical application begins with conscious scanning. Before you speak in any group, take a silent inventory. What's the collective posture, open or closed? How are people positioned facing each other or angled away? Is there tension in the air or curiosity? Are conversations flowing easily or stalling after short replies? Each observation gives you clues about how to enter the moment. If the mood is low, acknowledge it with honesty rather than pretending enthusiasm. If it's charged, diffuse it with grounded composure. Matching the emotional rhythm of the room before redirecting it is the secret to influence. In personal relationships, reading the room means tuning into subtle emotional shifts. When someone you care about withdraws slightly, don't ignore it. When they overreact to small things, listen beneath the reaction. People rarely say what they truly mean when emotions rise. They express what they feel safe to show. The ability to read these undercurrents helps you respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. Instead of arguing, you begin to understand. Instead of controlling, you begin to connect. In leadership, this skill becomes indispensable. A team's morale, motivation, and trust are written in silence long before they appear in performance metrics. A leader who reads the room notices when enthusiasm fades, when frustration brews, or when unspoken tension divides people. Addressing these feelings early prevents conflict from festering. Leaders who ignore emotional cues create workplaces filled with quiet resentment. Those who read them and respond with understanding create loyalty that no paycheck can buy. To cultivate this ability, slow down your presence. Enter every space as a learner, not as a performer. Listen to tone, not just language. Sense the rhythm of breath and movement. Speak only after your awareness has adjusted to the environment. When you align with the emotional wavelength of others, your message travels smoothly, like a note played in perfect tune. But when you speak without attunement, even good words create friction. Harmony requires sensitivity. Technology and fast-paced communication have dulled this sensitivity in many. Messages are fired off without context. Meetings are rushed, and people focus more on being heard than on hearing. To stand out, practice real observation in a distracted world. When you talk to someone, put the phone aside, maintain genuine eye contact, and fully occupy the moment. Presence itself is power. Most people feel unseen. When you truly see them, you awaken trust instantly. Reading the room also requires managing your own energy. If you walk into a space anxious, you'll project unease and amplify tension. If you carry calmness, you'll naturally balance the atmosphere. Emotional states are contagious. Awareness of your own mood allows you to influence the collective one. Before stepping into any important conversation, ground yourself. Take a steady breath, anchor your attention, and enter with composure. The room feels what you bring. The skill deepens with reflection. After conversations, replay moments in your mind. When did the energy rise? When did it fall? What triggered laughter? What caused silence? Over time, you begin to see patterns. Certain topics ignite excitement. Others create discomfort. You'll start predicting responses accurately because you've trained yourself to notice emotional detail. This awareness grants confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet confidence of someone who knows they understand people deeply. Reading the room is an act of service. It shows respect for the shared emotional space between people. It transforms communication from a battle of egos into a collaboration of minds. When you speak in alignment with what others feel, they listen not out of obligation, but out of recognition. They sense you understand them even without words. In truth, reading the room is reading life itself. Every environment, Every person, every moment carries signals waiting to be understood. The more attuned you become, the more graceful your communication grows. You will move through conversations like water, fluid, adaptable, aware of every ripple, and when you speak, your words will land gently yet firmly, because they are not detached from the present, they are born from it. In that awareness lies the essence of powerful communication, the wisdom to see before speaking, to feel before deciding, and to understand before acting. Number 3. Silence speaks volumes. Silence is often mistaken for absence, but in truth it is one of the most powerful forms of communication. When used with intention, silence carries more meaning than the loudest speech. It can reveal wisdom, command respect, and create impact in ways that words sometimes fail to achieve. Silence is not emptiness, it is space, and within that space, understanding grows. Those who learn to use silence deliberately become masters of influence, because they understand that communication is not only about what is said, but also about what is not. In every conversation, silence plays a role, whether consciously or unconsciously. It can calm tension, invite reflection, or magnify emotion. The great communicators of history, leaders, philosophers, and thinkers, have all known how to wield silence with grace. They paused before answering, they allowed others to speak fully, and they used moments of quiet to create anticipation. These pauses weren't accidental, they were strategic. When you master silence, you control the rhythm of interaction. You become the person others lean toward, not away from, because your restraint gives your presence weight. Many people fear silence because they mistake it for awkwardness. They rush to fill every quiet moment with words, not realizing that in doing so, they often dilute the meaning of what they are trying to say. Silence makes your message stronger because it gives listeners time to absorb it. When you pause after speaking, your words echo longer in the minds of others. Silence adds gravity. It tells the listener what was just said matters. A well-placed moment of quiet transforms a sentence into a statement. There is also a silence that listens. It is the kind that invites others to speak their truth. When someone pauses to think, most people interrupt, assuming the conversation has stalled. But when you stay quiet, holding space with patience, you show respect. You communicate without speaking that you value their thoughts. That kind of silence builds trust faster than any compliment. It makes others feel safe to reveal more, to be honest, and to share what lies beneath surface words. This is the silence of true understanding. Silence also sharpens perception. In quiet moments, you notice details that speech would have drowned out: the shift in tone, the hesitation in someone's breath, the slight tremor in their voice. These small signals reveal what people really mean beneath their words. A silent observer sees with clarity that a talkative mind cannot. In every discussion, there are two conversations, the one happening aloud and the one unfolding in silence. The wise communicator listens to both. To understand the power of silence, think of music. The beauty of a melody depends not only on the notes, but on the spaces between them. Without pauses, sound becomes noise. In the same way, speech, without silence, becomes cluttered, rushed, and overwhelming. Silence gives your words rhythm and shape. It transforms ordinary speech into communication that breathes and lives. When you speak with balanced silence, your voice becomes musical. It carries presence, patience, and confidence. There are moments when silence speaks as compassion. When someone is in pain or grief, the urge to speak often arises from discomfort. People search for comforting words, yet sometimes the most healing thing you can offer is quiet companionship. Sitting beside another person in silence can express more empathy than 1,000 rehearsed sentences. It tells them they are not alone, that your presence is steady even when words fail. Silence can hold emotion that language can. In arguments, silence is discipline. It prevents escalation and keeps emotional chaos at bay. When voices rise, the person who stays calm and quiet holds control. Silence disarms aggression because it denies it fuel. Responding with measured quietness makes the other person confront their own noise. It is not passive, it is active restraint. Through silence, you choose dignity over reaction, clarity over impulse. It gives you time to see the situation from a higher ground, instead of drowning in immediate emotion. Professionally, silence can be a tool of influence. In negotiations, silence creates pressure. When you make an offer and then remain quiet, the other side often rushes to fill the gap, revealing information or agreeing to terms. In presentations, pausing before delivering an important point draws every listener's attention. Silence, when placed with intention, is the punctuation mark of persuasion. It gives your words authority, as if each one has been weighed and chosen carefully. However, not all silence is strength. There is silence born of fear, the kind that avoids truth or hides opinion. This silence weakens character because it betrays authenticity. The goal is not to withdraw from communication, but to engage with awareness. The powerful silence is conscious, not cowardly. It is the silence that chooses its moment, not the one that hides from it. Understanding this difference is crucial. True silence does not avoid expression, it elevates. Cultivating the art of silence begins with self-control. The mind often wants to speak before it understands. It races to respond, to defend, to explain, but every unnecessary word is a leak of energy. Before speaking, feel the impulse arise, then breathe through it. Ask yourself whether speech will serve clarity or just relieve your need to react. When you choose silence, you choose mastery over impulse. That discipline builds inner strength, the kind that others can feel even when you say nothing. In moments of uncertainty, silence becomes reflection. It allows you to think deeply before committing to a direction. Many people seek answers in external noise, advice, opinions, or validation, but clarity often emerges only when the noise stops. In silence, thought matures. The mind begins to order chaos into understanding. Insight does not rush, it whispers, and only those who are comfortable with stillness can hear it. To practice the power of silence, begin with observation in everyday interactions. When someone finishes speaking, wait a few seconds before replying. In those seconds, watch how their body language changes. Often they will add more, filling the space with truth they had not planned to share. Silence invites honesty. During discussions, pause intentionally after making a key point. Let the weight of your words linger. Silence in this way is not hesitation, it is emphasis. Another practice is deliberate quiet time. Spend moments each day without devices, conversation, or external input. Listen to your inner world. You'll notice how restless your mind can be and how quickly it seeks distraction. This awareness shows how rare true silence has become. Yet in that quiet, your emotional intelligence expands. You begin to sense subtleties that others overlook. This personal stillness eventually carries into how you interact with others, making your communication calmer and more precise. There is also a spiritual dimension to silence. Every philosophy that values wisdom places importance on stillness. In silence, ego dissolves, and humility rises. It reminds us that we don't need to dominate every conversation or prove every point. Silence teaches detachment, the freedom to not always respond, not always justify, not always explain. It creates space for peace in a world addicted to noise. In relationships, silence can strengthen connection when used wisely. Sometimes love doesn't need words to express itself. Shared silence, free from awkwardness, signifies comfort and trust. When two people can sit quietly together without needing to fill the air, their bond deepens. It's a rare kind of understanding that transcends verbal communication. The deeper truth is that silence reveals character. It shows self-assurance, patience, and wisdom. Those who cannot bear silence often cannot bear themselves. They fill space with speech, because quiet confronts them with their own thoughts. But those who find strength in silence have mastered their inner dialogue. Their peace is not dependent on constant noise, it comes from within. Every great communicator carries silence like an instrument. They use it to guide tone, to measure timing, and to give depth to their words. They know that silence can draw attention more powerfully than volume. They understand that silence is not the opposite of sound, but the frame that gives sound meaning. It is the stillness that allows truth to echo. Silence speaks when words are not enough, when wisdom demands patience, when emotion needs space to breathe. It is the pause that gives understanding a chance to grow. To master silence is to master presence, the quiet confidence that says, I do not need to speak to be heard. In a world overflowing with noise, those who honor silence become unforgettable. They move through life with calm power, influencing not by constant talking, but by the gravity of their stillness. That is the true voice of silence. It speaks not in words, but in the resonance it leaves behind. Number 4. Structure creates clarity. Clarity is the foundation of powerful communication, and structure is the tool that builds it. A message without order is like a journey without direction. No matter how good the intention, it will lose its way before it reaches the destination. Structure is what turns ideas into understanding. It gives shape to thoughts and rhythm to expression. When you speak with structure, your words flow logically, your meaning lands effortlessly, and your listener feels guided rather than confused. It is not about sounding formal or rigid. It is about making every word serve a purpose, and every sentence move the listener closer to insight. Structured communicator thinks like an architect. Before speaking, they build a blueprint in their mind. They know the beginning, middle, and end of what they're about to say. They understand the order in which ideas should appear for maximum impact. They arrange information not for their own convenience, but for the listener's clarity. Communication is, at its heart, an act of service. Your job is not just to express yourself, but to make sure your message is received as you intended. Structure ensures that intention and understanding align. In conversation, structure begins before the first word. It starts with purpose. Every message should answer one simple question: what is the outcome I want? If you speak without knowing your goal, your words scatter in every direction. But when you know your destination, your speech becomes focused and deliberate. Whether you want to inform, persuade, inspire, or resolve conflict, clarity of purpose shapes the structure that follows. Each statement should support that goal, and anything that doesn't belongs to silence. Great communicators use mental frameworks to stay organized. One of the simplest yet most effective is the triangle of clarity: context, point, and reason. Begin with context to prepare the listener's mind, then state your main point clearly, and finally explain why it matters. This natural progression mirrors how the human mind absorbs information. Without context, your message feels abrupt. Without a clear point, it feels vague. Without reason, it feels hollow. Structure gives your listener a path to follow and makes understanding feel effortless. When you tell a story, structure gives emotion direction. Every powerful story follows a flow, a beginning that sets the scene, a tension that challenges, and a resolution that reveals growth. This is not coincidence, it's psychology. The human brain loves patterns. We crave order even in narrative. When your communication follows a recognizable rhythm, it becomes easier to remember. Structure transforms a simple account into a memorable experience. In daily interactions, you can bring structure by organizing thoughts aloud. For instance, when presenting an idea, frame it in steps. There are 3 things I want to cover. This small signal prepares your listener's mind for sequence and focus. Each part you mention after that is easier to process because it fits within an expected frame. The result is that people not only understand you better, they also perceive you as more confident and credible. Structured communication projects authority because it shows you have mastery over your thoughts. Clarity also depends on simplicity. Structure is not about adding complexity. It's about removing chaos. A structured message is clean, sharp, and purposeful. Avoid overwhelming your listener with unnecessary detail. The mind processes information in small, organized chunks. When you compress too much into one sentence or jump between unrelated ideas, you create confusion. Break your thoughts into segments, connect them logically, and lead your listener through each step, as if you were guiding them across stones over water. In professional settings, structure becomes a decisive advantage. Whether in meetings, presentations, or negotiations, clarity builds trust. When you speak in a structured way, people feel safe following your lead. They sense that you know what you are doing, even before you finish. Disorganized communication, on the other hand, creates friction. It forces others to work harder to understand, and that effort weakens their attention. Structure reduces cognitive strain and makes your message stick. The best speakers understand that attention is fragile. Structure protects it. In writing, we often outline before composing. In speech, the same principle applies mentally. Before you speak, outline your key points. Know your opening, how you will engage attention. Know your body, what ideas you must deliver. And know your closing, what emotion or action you want to leave behind. Even a few seconds of mental preparation can transform the quality of your delivery. Structure is not just for planned speeches. It enhances every spontaneous interaction by keeping your message anchored in clarity. Structure also sharpens emotional communication. When emotions run high, words can easily scatter under pressure. A structured response brings composure to chaos. When you organize your thoughts before reacting, you protect relationships from unnecessary conflict. For example, in a disagreement, start by acknowledging the other person's point of view, then express your perspective, and end with a constructive solution. This progression disarms defensiveness and opens space for cooperation. Structure turns emotion into understanding instead of escalation. Cognitive psychology shows that the human mind retains information better when it follows a pattern. People remember beginnings and endings more than middles, and they connect ideas more easily when transitions are smooth. Knowing this allows you to design your speech intentionally. Use transition phrases to guide attention. First, next, the key takeaway. Finally. These simple cues act as signposts that keep the listener oriented. A structured communicator doesn't leave people guessing where they are in the message. They lead them every step of the way. One of the hidden benefits of structure is that it reduces anxiety. Many people fear public speaking because they worry about forgetting their words or losing track of their point. But when you build structure into your communication, you gain stability. You no longer rely on memory alone. You rely on sequence. Each idea naturally flows into the next. That flow gives confidence, and confidence makes your tone steady. A calm structure produces a calm voice, and a calm voice commands attention. Clarity also requires removing clutter from language. Avoid filler phrases and unnecessary repetition. They dilute your structure and weaken impact. Every word should carry meaning, and every sentence should lead somewhere. Minimalism in speech is not cold. It is elegant. It allows your ideas to breathe. A listener should never have to work to find your meaning. They should feel gently led to it. Structure does not restrict creativity. It refines it. The more disciplined your organization, the freer your expression becomes. Learning to think structurally also improves listening. When you understand how ideas are built, you begin to hear them more clearly in others. You can trace their logic, identify gaps, and respond with insight. Structured speakers become structured listeners. This dual awareness deepens conversations because you begin to engage with substance rather than surface. You no longer react to random points. You respond to the deeper framework beneath them. In teamwork and leadership, structured communication ensures alignment. Misunderstanding often arises not from disagreement but from disorder. When instructions, goals, or expectations are communicated without order, confusion grows. A structured leader brings clarity by sequencing priorities, explaining reasoning, and confirming understanding. People don't follow vague direction. They follow clear maps. Structure turns vision into action. To practice this daily, build habits that support mental organization. Before important interactions, take a moment to outline mentally what you will say in 3 parts. During discussions, summarize key points out loud to reinforce understanding. After meetings, restate conclusions in simple terms. These small acts train your mind to think in sequences, not fragments. Over time, this habit becomes natural. You will find your thoughts arranging themselves into patterns even before you speak. Structure also refines timing. When you organize ideas, you gain control over pace. You know when to accelerate, when to pause, and when to emphasize. This rhythm holds the listener's attention. Without structure, pace becomes erratic. Too fast in some moments, too slow in others. With structure, Your speech flows like a well-composed piece of music, with balance between intensity and stillness. The clarity that comes from structure is not just cognitive, it's emotional. When you speak in a clear, ordered way, you make others feel secure. They sense your thoughtfulness, your respect for their time, and your intention to be understood. That emotional clarity builds trust and cooperation. In contrast, confusion breeds doubt. People cannot follow what they cannot follow emotionally. Structure removes that fog and lets your authenticity shine through. The ultimate purpose of structure is not to make you sound polished, but to make your message live beyond the moment. Words fade quickly, but understanding lasts. Structure anchors meaning so that long after the conversation ends, your listener can recall your point with precision. That is real communication, when your words continue to guide thought, even in your absence. Structure creates clarity because it turns chaos into coherence. It is the discipline of thought translated into language. When your ideas flow in order, you lead others with confidence. When you speak without structure, you wander with them. To master structure is to respect your message and your listener equally. It is the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to be understood. And in that understanding lies the quiet strength of all-powerful communication, the kind that doesn't just inform minds but transforms them. Number 5, connect through feeling. True communication begins when emotion replaces performance. To connect through feeling is to step beyond the surface of words and enter the shared space of human experience. The greatest communicators don't speak to impress, they speak to connect. They understand that people rarely remember exact phrases, but they always remember how someone made them feel. Words may pass through the ears, but feelings reach the heart. Connection built on emotion is what transforms ordinary speech into influence, and it begins with authenticity, empathy, and presence. When someone speaks from genuine emotion, there is an undeniable resonance that cuts through pretense. You can hear it in the rhythm of their tone, in the pauses that carry meaning, in the energy that moves beneath the language. This kind of communication cannot be faked because it requires alignment. Your thoughts, words, and emotions must move in the same direction. People sense when what you say does not match what you feel. They may not articulate it, but their intuition tells them. To connect through feeling, you must first speak from truth. Only then can your words carry emotional weight. Connection begins with attention. You cannot feel what others feel if your focus is divided. The modern world rewards distraction, but emotional connection demands presence. When you give someone your full attention, you are silently telling them they matter. Your eyes, your posture, your stillness, these become signals of respect. People open up, not when they hear the right words, but when they sense you are fully with them. Emotional connection is not about talking more. It is about listening deeply enough to understand what isn't said. Empathy is the core of emotional intelligence and the bridge between two minds. To communicate powerfully, you must learn to imagine the inner world of the person in front of you. Every listener carries unseen emotions, hopes, fears, doubts, and memories. When you speak, your words travel through that landscape. If you ignore it, your message collides with resistance. If you acknowledge it, your message finds belonging. Empathy means adjusting your message, not for manipulation, but for understanding. It is the art of meeting someone where they are and guiding them toward where they could be. To connect emotionally, tone matters as much as content. The same sentence can comfort or wound depending on delivery. A gentle tone can soften truth, while an impatient one can turn wisdom into offense. Communication is not just what you say, it is the energy you carry when saying it. Before speaking, check your emotional state. Are you tense, defensive, hurried? These feelings will leak into your words. Calmness and sincerity, on the other hand, invite openness. The emotional tone you bring sets the emotional tone you receive. In every conversation, there are two levels happening at once, the verbal and the emotional. The verbal deals with facts, arguments, and logic. The emotional deals with meaning, trust, and connection. Most people focus only on the verbal, believing logic will persuade. But humans are emotional first, rational second. Decisions, beliefs, and relationships all form through emotional pathways before they are justified intellectually. This is why a calm voice can de-escalate anger faster than reasoning can. The heart listens before the mind does. Connecting through feeling also requires vulnerability. Many people mistake strength for emotional distance, but true strength is the ability to express sincerity without fear. When you share an honest emotion, uncertainty, gratitude, admiration, you remind others that you are human. Vulnerability does not weaken authority, it deepens it. People trust those who are real, not those who pretend perfection. The most powerful leaders, teachers, and friends are those who make others feel seen and safe enough to be authentic. Stories are one of the most effective ways to evoke feeling. Facts appeal to logic, but stories appeal to imagination and empathy. A well-told story allows your listener to experience emotion rather than just observe. When you share a personal story not to boast, but to illustrate truth, you invite emotional participation. The listener begins to picture themselves in your experience, and your words become a mirror reflecting their own emotions. This is the secret behind powerful communication. You are not transmitting information, you are awakening recognition. Sometimes connection comes not from what is said, but from the pauses between words. Silence gives emotion room to breathe. A hurried speaker fills every gap, but a wise communicator knows that stillness can speak. A moment of quiet after a heartfelt statement allows your message to settle into the listener's heart. It gives them space to feel rather than analyze. Emotional connection grows in these pauses because emotion lives in presence, not in noise. Physical cues also shape emotional communication. Your body language, facial expressions, and gestures are constant messengers of your emotional state. A slight nod, a relaxed posture, an open expression, all of these invite connection. Crossed arms, fidgeting, or glancing away communicate distance, even when your words say otherwise. The body does not lie, and the listener always perceives more than you realize. Mastering emotional connection requires awareness, not just of your words, but of your entire presence. In professional environments, emotional intelligence distinguishes those who inspire from those who merely instruct. You can have the most precise logic and still fail to influence if you cannot engage emotion. A good manager can give directions. A great leader can move hearts. This does not mean dramatizing emotion, but channeling it constructively, using empathy to motivate, gratitude to uplift, and calmness to stabilize. Emotional connection is the invisible thread that binds teams, builds loyalty, and turns communication into culture. To connect through feeling, you must also learn emotional regulation. You cannot connect when you are overwhelmed by your own reactions. The ability to stay composed in tension allows you to respond rather than react. When you maintain emotional steadiness, others feel grounded in your presence. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means mastering it. Controlled emotion has clarity. Uncontrolled emotion has confusion. The more you understand your own feelings, the better you can navigate those of others. Every emotion carries a message if you know how to listen. When someone speaks with frustration, the surface emotion may be anger, but beneath it could be fear or disappointment. When someone withdraws, they may not be indifferent. They may be protecting themselves. To connect, you must listen beneath the words. Ask yourself not only what are they saying, but what are they feeling. This deeper listening transforms ordinary exchanges into meaningful connection. People rarely open up to those who only hear their words. They open up to those who understand their feeling. Emotional connection also thrives on respect. Respect means acknowledging another's experience, even when you disagree. You can validate someone's emotion without endorsing their conclusion. Saying, "I can see why that upsets you," builds trust without surrendering your perspective. When people feel respected emotionally, they become more receptive intellectually. Connection is not agreement, it is mutual understanding. The more respect you show for others' emotions, the more influence you gain over their thoughts. In relationships, both personal and professional, emotional neglect is often more damaging than verbal conflict. People can recover from disagreement, but they rarely forget feeling unseen. To connect through feeling means noticing small moments, the sigh in a colleague's tone, the hesitation in a friend's message, the silence in a loved one's presence. When you respond to these subtle emotional cues, you demonstrate awareness, and awareness builds closeness. Communication becomes less about exchange and more about empathy and action. To practice emotional connection, slow down your pace when speaking. Allow your voice to carry warmth rather than rush. Match your tone to the emotional context of the conversation. When someone shares pain, respond with softness. When someone celebrates, respond with energy. Emotional intelligence is not fixed. It is a skill refined through mindfulness and compassion. The more attuned you become to emotional energy, the more natural connection feels. In times of conflict, emotional connection becomes your greatest tool for resolution. Logic may outline solutions, but emotion opens the door to reconciliation. When tension rises, focus first on the emotional state of the other person. Reflect understanding before you offer solutions. Statements like "I can tell this means a lot to you" can dissolve defensiveness and create space for reason. Conflict resolves not when both sides agree intellectually, but when both sides feel understood emotionally. Connection through feeling is not limited to personal interaction. It shapes the way you communicate with the world. Whether you write, speak publicly, or lead communities, the principle is the same. Emotion is the bridge. Audiences connect with sincerity more than sophistication. They respond not to polished words, but to genuine energy. When you speak from feeling, your message carries life. It reaches beyond comprehension and touches conviction. To master emotional connection, cultivate compassion in your daily life. Observe people more deeply. Notice how their eyes change when they are inspired, how their tone shifts when they feel safe, how silence grows when they feel unheard. These subtle patterns teach you the language of emotion, a language universal across all cultures and personalities. The more fluent you become in it, the more effortlessly you can reach others. The essence of connection through feeling lies in humility. It is realizing that communication is not a performance, but a shared moment between souls. Every time you speak, you have a chance to remind another person they are not alone in their emotion. Every time you listen, you offer someone a space to be seen. When feeling flows through communion, understanding becomes effortless and trust becomes natural. That is the quiet power of speaking with heart, the ability to transform interaction into intimacy and words into healing. Number 6. Shape the narrative. Every conversation tells a story, whether you intend it to or not. To shape the narrative is to take ownership of that story, to direct meaning before it takes a life of its own. In every interaction, words form perceptions, and perceptions form reality. The most influential communicators understand this truth deeply. They don't simply respond to what's said. They design the story that others will remember. The power to shape the narrative is the power to frame experience, to turn uncertainty into direction, and to make chaos coherent. Communication without narrative is noise, but communication with narrative becomes influence. At its core, shaping the narrative means defining context. The same event can inspire two entirely different interpretations depending on how it's framed. A challenge can be seen as a threat or an opportunity. A setback can appear as failure or preparation. The story you tell determines the emotion you create. In communication, this principle holds absolute power. Whoever defines the narrative controls how people think about it. This is why clarity and intention matter more than eloquence. If you don't shape the story, someone else will, and they might not tell it in your favor. Narrative shaping begins with understanding perspective. Every listener interprets through their own lens of experience, values, and beliefs. The story that motivates one person might alienate another. To communicate effectively, you must first see the world through the eyes of your audience. Ask yourself what they care about, what they fear, and what they hope to gain. Once you understand their emotional landscape, you can craft a message that speaks directly to it. Shaping a narrative is not about manipulation. It's about alignment, connecting your message with meaning that already exists inside others. The human brain organizes reality through story. It is how we process chaos and assign purpose. Every piece of information we absorb, we subconsciously fit into a pattern of cause and effect. This is why abstract facts rarely inspire change. But when information is wrapped in narrative, it becomes memorable and emotionally resonant. A good story activates imagination, empathy, and belief. It transforms an idea from concept to conviction. When you communicate, your task is to give your listener a clear plot to follow, a sense of where they are, where they're going, and why it matters. To shape a powerful narrative, begin with clarity of message. Know the core truth you want your listener to walk away with. Everything else must support that central idea. The problem with most communication is not lack of intelligence, but lack of focus. When messages drift between unrelated points, the story becomes fragmented. A fragmented story confuses, and confusion erodes trust. Structure your narrative so that every element, facts, examples, emotions, flows toward a single outcome. The stronger your central message, the stronger your influence. Every great communicator uses contrast to shape narrative. Contrast gives meaning through comparison. You understand light because there is darkness. You appreciate peace because you've seen chaos. When you highlight contrast, you awaken emotion. For example, instead of saying we need to change, say if we stay the same, we decline. If we change, we grow. The listener feels the difference rather than just hearing the instruction. Contrast is the heartbeat of storytelling because it creates movement. Movement from what is to what could be. The ability to shape narrative is also the ability to redirect focus. In difficult situations, people often fixate on problems. The skilled communicator acknowledges the problem, but redirects attention towards solutions. This subtle shift changes energy. Where attention goes, emotion follows. Leaders who master narrative know how to acknowledge fear without amplifying it, how to recognize struggle without surrendering to it. They don't deny reality, they redefine it. The story they tell transforms adversity into growth and uncertainty into potential. Shaping narrative requires language that paints pictures. Vague words create distance, but vivid words create presence. When you describe ideas with sensory detail, you activate imagination. Instead of saying we will improve, say we will build something stronger, steadier, and lasting. The listener doesn't just hear improvement, they see it, feel it, believe it. Words are the tools of reality creation. Each one chosen deliberately can either dull or sharpen the emotional image you leave behind. The clearer the image, the deeper the impression. Narratives also carry rhythm. The way you pace your message influences emotional response. Build anticipation before revelation. Slow down at moments of meaning. Use silence to give weight to words. This rhythm gives your communication flow and movement, allowing your story to breathe. Monotone delivery, whether spoken or written, dulls even the most powerful message. But when you vary your pace, you guide the listener emotionally through your story, lifting them when you inspire, grounding them when you teach, steadying them when you comfort. In persuasive communication, the narrative must always serve truth, not distortion. Influence built on honesty lasts. Influence built on deceit collapses. Shaping the narrative is not about twisting facts, but about highlighting the meaning within them. It is about choosing what matters most and giving it focus. The ethical communicator uses narrative to bring clarity, not confusion, to uplift understanding, not manipulate it. When your story reflects integrity, people trust you even in disagreement, and trust is the foundation of lasting influence. In personal growth, shaping your own internal narrative is just as vital. Every day, your mind tells you stories about who you are and what you're capable of. These stories shape your confidence, decisions, and resilience. If your inner narrative is built on doubt or fear, your communication will carry hesitation. But if your inner story is one of growth and courage, your presence will project strength. Mastering external communication begins with mastering internal storytelling. Stick to yourself with the same clarity and direction you wish to convey to others. The power of narrative also lies in its continuity. People connect more deeply with messages that link past, present, and future. When you speak, give context, where things began, where they stand now, and where they are heading. This timeline gives listeners a sense of movement and meaning. It transforms isolated information into an unfolding journey. When people can see themselves within that journey, they commit emotionally. Narrative builds not just understanding but belonging. In leadership, narrative is culture. Every organization, team, or community runs on collective stories, stories about purpose, identity, and direction. The leader's job is to shape those stories deliberately. Without guidance, stories drift toward negativity and fear. With intention, they unite around hope and vision. A clear narrative becomes the compass that aligns people's actions and attitudes. When individuals see their effort as part of a meaningful whole, motivation turns into momentum. To shape narrative effectively, timing is crucial. Introduce key ideas when the listener is most receptive. In moments of confusion, offer clarity. In moments of fear, offer reassurance. The best communicators read emotional currents like navigators, reading tides. They know when to push forward and when to pause. Narrative shaping is not about speaking constantly. It's about speaking at the right moment with the right tone. The timing of your story can be as powerful as the content itself. Every narrative also carries a moral, whether spoken or implied. It answers the question, what does this mean for me? When people understand how your message connects to their own lives, they internalize it. Without that link, even brilliant ideas fade quickly. Make sure your story gives value, something the listener can apply, reflect on, or carry forward. When communication adds meaning, it transcends information and becomes transformation. One of the most overlooked aspects of shaping narrative is consistency. The story you tell with your words must match the story you tell with your actions. If your message preaches calm but your behavior radiates tension, the narrative fractures. Integrity between word and deed gives your story strength. Consistency turns communication into credibility. Over time, this consistency becomes your reputation, the lasting narrative others tell about you. Practice shaping narrative by observing how people interpret your words. Notice which parts of your message linger in their memory. Pay attention to how tone and phrasing shift perception. The more you observe, the more precise you become in directing meaning. Each interaction becomes a rehearsal for influence. With awareness, you stop reacting to how stories unfold and start creating how they begin. Ultimately, shaping the narrative is an act of responsibility. You hold in your words the power to define perspectives, to inspire courage, or to plant doubt. Use that power wisely. Every sentence you craft has the potential to guide someone's understanding of themselves or the world around them. When you communicate with purpose, empathy, and direction, you become the author of meaning rather than the echo of confusion. To shape the narrative is to own the story, not to control others, but to guide truth into light. It is the art of transforming raw experience into wisdom, of giving structure to uncertainty, and of speaking with intention so strong that misunderstanding finds no space to grow. Those who master this art do not merely communicate. They lead, they heal, they define the atmosphere of every room they enter. Because in the end, the world remembers not what happened but the story that was told about it, and those who shape that story shape everything that follows. Number 7. Words create worlds. Words are far more than tools for communication. They are architects of reality. Every phrase spoken, every sentence written, carries the power to shape perception, influence belief, and alter behavior. When used consciously, words build worlds, internal landscapes of thought, shared visions between people, and even cultural realities that define societies. Each time a word is chosen, it either clarifies or confuses, elevates or diminishes, empowers or restrains. The mastery of communication begins with the understanding that language is not neutral. It is transformative. Every thought expressed outwardly becomes a building block of experience. Consider how a simple phrase like, "I believe in you," can ignite courage in someone paralyzed by doubt. Conversely, careless words can wound, constrain, or misdirect. Words are not confined to the moment. They echo beyond the immediate conversation, influencing attitudes and decisions long after they are spoken. The responsibility of wielding language consciously is immense, because the worlds created through words are real in their effect. Words create worlds because they shape perception. The human mind interprets reality largely through the lens of language. What we call truth is filtered by the narratives constructed with words. Describing a situation as a challenge versus a catastrophe evokes entirely different emotional and cognitive responses. Words frame experience. They act as lenses through which people interpret events, people and themselves. By choosing words deliberately, communicators control the frame and guide understanding. Clarity in word choice is essential. Vague language leaves listeners adrift, while precise language gives direction and certainty. Every word carries nuance. Each syllable conveys subtle meaning beyond the dictionary definition. The more deliberate your vocabulary, the more exact the world you build. The difference between saying "let's improve" and "we will implement a plan that strengthens our foundations and maximizes growth" is immense. One statement floats as hope, the other constructs reality. Words are not only descriptive, they are directive. The emotional resonance of words magnifies their world-building power. Words evoke feelings, and feelings generate action. The right words can inspire hope, calm anxiety, ignite determination, or foster connection. To harness this, a communicator must understand not just semantics, but emotional psychology. Which words stir courage? Which soothe fear? Which cultivate empathy? Mastery lies in selecting words that carry the precise emotional weight required for the context. Language is also a tool for identity formation. The way people speak to themselves shapes their inner reality. Self-directed words are the foundation of confidence, resilience, and ambition. When thoughts are framed positively, they empower action. When they are framed negatively, they limit potential. Internal narratives constructed through language dictate perception of capability, worth, and possibility. Words spoken internally are architects of personal experience. Conscious communication with oneself is the first step to shaping the external world effectively. Metaphors are particularly powerful in world creation. By linking abstract ideas to tangible experiences, they provide cognitive scaffolding. Saying "our potential is a seed waiting to bloom" gives a listener a visual, emotional, and conceptual framework simultaneously. Metaphors allow ideas to exist in both the mind and imagination, creating a shared reality between speaker and audience. Skillful communicators use metaphors strategically to construct understanding that is memorable and transformative. Words also shape collective realities. Societies function on shared meaning, and language is the binding force. Legal systems, cultural norms, social expectations, all exist because of agreed-upon terms and definitions. Leaders, educators, writers, and speakers participate in world creation every day, often unconsciously. The stories told through language define how groups perceive morality, success, and possibility. The conscious use of words in this context can transform communities, inspire movements, and cultivate cultures. Intentional repetition amplifies world building. When key phrases or ideas are repeated thoughtfully, they solidify understanding and influence thought patterns. Repetition is not redundancy, it is reinforcement. It strengthens neural pathways that anchor concepts in memory. Public figures, teachers, and writers use repetition to shape perception subtly, ensuring that central ideas are absorbed, reflected upon, and acted upon. Words repeated with purpose build mental landscapes that persist beyond immediate attention. Timing is as crucial as selection. A well-chosen word delivered at the right moment can transform perception instantly. Pause, emphasis, and cadence all affect how words are internalized. The same message spoken hurriedly may be lost, while delivered with intentional rhythm, it resonates deeply. Words are musical instruments. Their meaning is amplified or diminished by the rhythm and tone with which they are deployed. Silence, when paired with words, magnifies world-building power. Strategic pauses give weight to statements and allow listeners to internalize meaning. A statement punctuated by silence becomes a moment for reflection, turning words into experience. Communicators who understand the interplay between sound and stillness can craft reality in ways that words alone cannot achieve. Silence enhances resonance. It gives the listener space to construct understanding from what is spoken. Precision prevents distortion. Imprecise language introduces ambiguity, leaving interpretation to chance. Words must be chosen to convey exactly what is intended. Vagueness diminishes influence because it allows listeners to build alternative realities that may conflict with the speaker's goal. Skilled communicators sculpt language carefully, trimming extraneous phrases, selecting verbs that evoke action, and choosing nouns that carry clarity. Words are chisels. Used skillfully, they carve insight from uncertainty. Words have temporal impact. They can frame past events, reinterpret the present, and predict future outcomes. The narratives constructed through language determine how individuals and groups perceive history, understand current circumstances, and anticipate what is possible. Leaders who frame challenges as opportunities create momentum. Those who frame crises as insurmountable foster fear. The worlds built through words are never static. They unfold as perception evolves. Language is also relational. Words build bridges between people. They convey empathy, respect, admiration, or challenge. Connection arises when words align with emotion, context, and shared understanding. The worlds that emerge from this alignment are cooperative, trusting, and dynamic. Misaligned words fracture understanding, creating isolation or resistance. To create positive worlds, speakers must calibrate language to relationships, choosing phrasing that nurtures rather than alienates. Imagination is the foundation of language-based world creation. Words conjure mental images, allowing abstract concepts to take shape. The listener experiences the narrative internally, as a kind of living landscape. Skilled communicators harness imagination to make ideas tangible, engaging both logic and emotion. A compelling narrative transforms abstract objectives into experiential understanding, making action not only conceivable but inevitable. Listening is the counterpart to speaking in world building. Understanding the language and perspective of others allows your words to intersect with existing mental landscapes. Effective communication does not impose reality. It shapes it in harmony with what the listener can perceive and accept. The worlds your words create are stronger when they resonate with prior understanding, values, and emotional states. Dialogue is the process through which worlds are co-created. Words also hold moral and ethical weight. The realities they construct can uplift or harm. Statements of encouragement foster growth. Accusations or ridicule limit potential. Every utterance carries influence beyond the immediate exchange. Conscious communicators recognize the responsibility inherent in language. World building is not neutral. It can empower or diminish. Choosing words with awareness is an act of stewardship, creating environments where understanding, trust, and growth are possible. To harness the full power of words, develop awareness of nuance, tone, context, cultural connotations, and personal experience all shape how language is received. A word's impact is not inherent. It exists in interaction with perception. Words must be tailored not only to what is spoken, but to who is listening. Skilled communicators adjust syntax, phrasing, and rhythm to align with cognitive and emotional realities. The worlds they construct are both intentional and adaptive. Ultimately, mastery of words is mastery of influence. Each conversation, presentation, or written text is a chance to construct a reality that empowers, inspires, and clarifies. Words are not mere labels, they are building blocks. They shape thought, define perception, and create pathways for action. Every sentence, every metaphor, every carefully chosen phrase contributes to a world that can elevate understanding, spark imagination, and forge connection. Those who respect the weight of language understand that with each word, they are creating worlds that ripple far beyond the moment of speech, shaping lives, thoughts, and possibilities for those who receive them. Number 8. Command with calm. True authority is quiet, measured, and grounded. Commanding with calm is not about raising your voice, asserting dominance, or forcing attention. It is about presence, confidence, and control over oneself. Calmness communicates mastery in ways that words alone cannot. It conveys certainty, steadiness, and reliability, signaling to others that they can follow without fear or hesitation. When calm is present, it becomes magnetic. People naturally gravitate toward those who exude composed strength, because calm signals understanding, competence, and vision. Command begins internally. Before you can project calm externally, you must master your own mind and body. Tension, haste, and anxiety reveal themselves immediately in speech, posture, and expression. The most commanding individuals maintain internal equilibrium, even amid chaos. They do not react impulsively. They respond with clarity. Each breath, each heartbeat becomes a tool for regulation. By controlling your inner state, you create a foundation for outward influence that is unshakable. Calm is contagious, and your steadiness sets the emotional tone for everyone around you. Silence is a powerful companion to calm command. The person who speaks without rush, who allows pauses to carry meaning, demonstrates confidence that others cannot manufacture. Rapid speech or nervous gestures suggest uncertainty, but measured silence conveys authority. When decisions are explained with calm deliberation, they gain legitimacy. The listener subconsciously registers that the speaker has considered options thoroughly, not hastily. Calm allows the message to land without resistance, because it radiates stability and thoughtfulness. Command with calm is built on clarity. Uncertain words, over-explanations, and wavering tones diminish influence. Those who speak decisively without haste communicate competence. Each word is deliberate, each phrase intentional. This precision reassures listeners, conveying that the situation is understood and under control. Calm does not rush, it filters impulse, choosing only what is necessary to guide, inform, or inspire. People trust clarity because it reduces confusion and prevents chaos from taking root. Emotional regulation is central to commanding with calm. Anger, fear, or frustration undermine authority. When emotions run unchecked, they dictate words, gestures, and decisions, creating instability. To lead effectively, one must maintain composure while recognizing emotion, both in oneself and others. Calm command does not ignore feeling, it channels it. It acknowledges the reality of emotion while preventing it from dictating behavior. This balance creates an aura of reliability, making others feel safe in following guidance. Physical presence amplifies calm authority. Posture, eye contact, and controlled gestures communicate confidence. Silently, standing tall, moving deliberately, and maintaining relaxed facial expressions signal mastery without words. Conversely, fidgeting, slouching, or rushed movements convey insecurity. Command is not only conveyed verbally, it is embodied. The way you occupy space, the steadiness of your gaze, and the rhythm of your movements become nonverbal signals that reinforce calm authority. Calmness also sharpens listening. People who speak with composed authority allow space for others to express themselves fully. They do not interrupt impulsively or react defensively. They absorb information, process it, and respond deliberately. Listening with calm signals respect, encourages open dialogue, and strengthens influence. Others naturally mirror the measured tempo, creating a collective sense of focus and cooperation. Calm leadership fosters an environment where clarity and collaboration thrive. Decision-making is strengthened by calm command. Impulse-driven choices often lead to confusion, conflict, or error. When decisions are made with deliberation and communicated without urgency, they gain legitimacy. Calm allows for consideration of all factors, minimizing mistakes and increasing confidence in outcomes. Even under pressure, those who maintain composure inspire trust and commitment. Calm decision-making demonstrates mastery over both circumstance and self, creating influence that is firm and lasting. Language is a critical tool in calm command. Words should be concise, precise, and purposeful. Excessive explanation, filler phrases, or uncertain statements erode authority. Calm communicators choose their vocabulary carefully, ensuring that each sentence reinforces credibility and clarity. The cadence of speech is equally important. Measured pace gives weight to ideas, allowing them to resonate fully. Tone, rhythm, and phrasing collectively convey competence, ensuring that the listener absorbs the intended message without distraction. Strategic pacing strengthens influence. Rushing communicates anxiety. Hesitation without purpose signals uncertainty. Calm command employs tempo intentionally, Pauses highlight importance, transitions are smooth, and speech aligns with the gravity of the message. This rhythm allows listeners to follow more easily, internalizing key points and responding thoughtfully. Calm is not stagnation. It is deliberate control of timing to enhance understanding and authority. In conflict, calm command is transformative. Arguments escalate quickly when participants react emotionally. Those who maintain composure act as stabilizers. Calm allows observation without judgment, giving the communicator the ability to guide the conversation toward resolution rather than escalation. Responding rather than reacting demonstrates self-mastery, creating respect and influence. Conflict handled with calm authority models behavior for others and transforms tense situations into opportunities for collaboration. Calmness also fosters resilience. In crises, panic spreads rapidly, but calm leaders anchor the group. Composed individuals focus on solutions rather than problems, acting with clarity rather than being swept by emotion. Their presence reassures others, creating psychological safety that enables effective action. Calm resilience is not passive, it is active mastery, demonstrating that pressure can be managed without compromising integrity or clarity. Confidence is inseparable from calm. Those who command with calm do so not because of external validation, but because of internal certainty. Confidence rooted in skill, knowledge, and preparation manifests as steadiness, which in turn commands attention naturally. It is quiet yet undeniable. Calm authority is rarely forced. It is absorbed, reflected, and respected. People instinctively follow those whose presence suggests mastery rather than intimidation. Training for calm command requires practice in self-awareness. Observing emotional responses, controlling breathing, and reflecting on internal states builds resilience and composure. Daily exercises, such as meditation, mindful breathing, or deliberate speech pacing, strengthen the ability to remain grounded under pressure. Calm authority grows not from circumstance, but from consistent mastery of self. Each controlled interaction reinforces the capacity to maintain poise in more demanding situations. Calm command enhances persuasion. People are more receptive when approached with composure rather than aggression. Arguments presented with measured tone, structured reasoning, and emotional steadiness gain credibility. Calm allows the communicator to appeal to both logic and emotions simultaneously, creating alignment and trust. Persuasion rooted in calm is durable. It inspires reflection rather than reactive resistance. Authority gained through calm is sustainable. Force, volume, or urgency may create compliance temporarily, but lasting influence depends on trust and respect. Calmness embodies both, demonstrating competence, patience, and foresight. Individuals who command in this manner inspire loyalty, cooperation, and admiration without coercion. Their influence spreads organically because people are drawn to stability and clarity in uncertain environments. Calm command also improves clarity of thought. In a composed state, the mind filters distraction, assesses options effectively, and communicates decisions with precision. Anxiety or haste clouds judgment, leading to muddled explanations and misinterpretation. Calm fosters mental clarity that is immediately reflected in communication, creating a cycle where presence enhances reasoning, which in turn reinforces calm authority. Leadership, mentorship, and daily communication all benefit from calm command. By controlling internal state, pacing language, and embodying steadiness, influence becomes effortless. Calm is not the absence of energy. It is the mastery of energy. It signals control over circumstance, awareness of impact, and respect for the listener. Those who command with calm do not demand attention. They earn it. Every word, pause, and gesture reinforces presence, trust, and authority. Ultimately, to command with calm is to communicate with power that is unforced, yet undeniable. It is a discipline that blends self-mastery, emotional intelligence, clarity, and strategic presence. Calm transforms speech from mere words into an instrument of influence. It stabilizes chaos, fosters cooperation, and amplifies credibility. The person who speaks with calm is heard not only for what they say, but for the composure that surrounds every word. creating a magnetic presence that guides, reassures, and inspires. Calm is authority refined, and authority exercised with calm shapes outcomes, decisions, and relationships with enduring impact. Number 9. Listen to leadership is not defined by the volume of your voice or the force of your presence. It is defined by the depth of your attention. To lead effectively, one must first learn to listen, not as a formality but as a deliberate act of engagement. Listening to lead is the practice of understanding others deeply, perceiving needs before they are spoken, and responding with insight that moves people toward purpose. It transforms communication from a monologue of instruction into a dialogue of influence, creating trust and clarity that commands respect naturally. True listening requires intentional focus. The mind is constantly tempted to interrupt, plan a response, or filter meaning through preconceived notions. To lead through listening, you must set aside these impulses. Every word spoken by another is a window into their perspective, their emotion, and their reasoning. By paying attention to the nuances of speech, tone, and pause, you can grasp not just what is being said, but what lies beneath. The silent spaces between words often carry the greatest insight. Empathy is at the heart of listening to lead. Understanding someone's perspective does not mean agreeing with it. It means seeing the world through their lens. Leaders who practice empathetic listening can anticipate challenges, uncover hidden motivations, and address concerns before they escalate. This awareness allows decisions to be more informed, solutions to be more practical, and guidance to be more effective. People follow leaders who genuinely understand them because they feel seen, valued, and understood. Active listening is a skill that combines attention, observation, and response. It is more than hearing words. It is decoding meaning, intention, and emotion. It requires patience, restraint, and curiosity. Ask clarifying questions, paraphrase what is heard to confirm understanding, and observe nonverbal cues. Body language, facial expressions, and subtle tone shifts often reveal more than words alone. Listening attentively signals respect, builds rapport, and fosters an environment where people feel safe to express ideas freely. Listening to lead also involves humility. Leaders do not have all the answers, nor should they assume they do. By approaching conversations with the mindset of learner rather than instructor, they uncover information, perspectives, and solutions that might otherwise be missed. Humility in listening demonstrates confidence without arrogance. It reassures teams that their insights matter, that their experience is valued, and that collective wisdom is more powerful than individual authority. The power of listening extends to decision-making. Many leaders make choices based on limited information or their own assumptions. Listening first ensures decisions are grounded in reality, not speculation. The insights gained through careful attention reveal hidden risks, opportunities, and innovative approaches. Listening allows leaders to act decisively because their actions are informed by a comprehensive understanding rather than impulse. Decisions made with listening as a foundation inspire confidence because people see themselves reflected in the process. Listening also strengthens influence. People naturally align with those who acknowledge their perspective. When someone feels truly heard, resistance diminishes and cooperation increases. This is not manipulation. It is the natural outcome of validation. Listening builds relational trust, and trust is the currency of influence. Leaders who master this skill do not need to coerce or demand. Their guidance is sought because it emerges from genuine understanding. A critical aspect of listening to lead is patience. Not every insight arrives instantly, and not every person articulates clearly on the first attempt. Patience allows space for reflection, thought, and deeper expression. Interrupting or rushing erodes trust and diminishes understanding. By giving others the time and attention to articulate fully, leaders gather richer information and create a culture where thoughtful communication is valued. Listening cultivates foresight. By attentively absorbing concerns, questions, and ideas, leaders can anticipate challenges before they manifest. They can identify trends, detect shifts in morale, and foresee conflicts. The act of listening transforms reactive management into proactive guidance. Leaders who anticipate effectively inspire confidence because people sense preparedness and intentionality. Their decisions appear measured, informed, and deliberate, creating stability even in uncertainty. Clarity emerges from listening. Leaders who absorb information attentively are better equipped to translate complexity into actionable guidance. They can distill conflicting opinions into coherent priorities, reconcile misunderstandings, and present direction in ways that resonate. Listening enhances comprehension, allowing leaders to communicate with precision, reducing confusion and fostering alignment. The clearer the leader understands, the clearer their guidance becomes. Listening also deepens emotional intelligence. Awareness of the emotional undertones in conversations allows leaders to respond with sensitivity, balance, and effectiveness. Recognizing frustration, hesitation, or excitement informs both the content and manner of response. Leaders who attune to emotional cues can navigate tense interactions, encourage collaboration, and inspire commitment. Emotional perception through listening builds connection and loyalty, ensuring messages are received with understanding rather than resistance. To lead through listening, one must also observe the unspoken. Nonverbal communication, gestures, posture, eye contact, and facial microexpressions reveals feelings and intentions that words may mask. Attentive leaders notice these cues and integrate them into understanding. By responding to what is unspoken as skillfully as to what is spoken, leaders gain a deeper, more holistic grasp of circumstances, enabling more precise and impactful guidance. Listening requires consistency. It is not a skill to be employed selectively. Leaders who listen only when convenient lose credibility. Habitual listening creates patterns of trust. People come to expect their voices to be acknowledged, and engagement becomes habitual. Consistency signals reliability and integrity, reinforcing the leader's authority not through dominance, but through demonstrated care and attentiveness. The benefits of listening extend to innovation. Fresh ideas, perspectives, and solutions often emerge from the collective knowledge of those around us. Leaders who listen deeply uncover these insights, integrating diverse viewpoints into strategic thinking. Listening fosters an environment where creativity thrives, because individuals feel safe sharing unconventional ideas without fear of dismissal. Innovation is nurtured when every voice has the potential to be heard and valued. Listening to lead is also a form of self-mastery. The impulse to speak, dominate, or control must be managed. Leaders who resist this urge cultivate patience, focus, and reflection. By prioritizing understanding over immediate assertion, they develop a disciplined approach to interaction. Self-control in listening models composure and respect, signaling to others that thoughtful action, not impulsive reaction, defines leadership. In practice, listening to lead can be applied in every interaction. In meetings, resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, gather insight, ask questions, and paraphrase to confirm understanding. In personal conversations, prioritize attention over assertion, validating feelings before offering guidance. In presentations, pause to absorb feedback and adapt accordingly. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to practice deliberate, attentive listening that strengthens connection and influence. Listening amplifies credibility. When people perceive that a leader understands before acting, they trust guidance more deeply. Conversely, leaders who speak without listening risk misunderstanding, misalignment, and lost confidence. The act of listening conveys competence and care simultaneously. Influence is magnified because it is rooted in comprehension, not assumption. Leaders who listen inspire commitment rather than compliance. Ultimately, to lead effectively, one must internalize that communication is not a one-way act. True leadership emerges when understanding precedes direction. Listening is the gateway to insight, connection, and influence. It transforms interaction from a transactional exchange into a relational and strategic process. Leaders who cultivate listening as a disciplined guide with wisdom inspire through understanding and create environments where clarity, trust, and collaboration flourish. Listening is not passive. It is the foundation of action, authority, and lasting impact. Number 10. Speak with purpose. Every word you speak carries weight, whether you realize it or not. To speak with purpose is to ensure that each phrase, each sentence is intentional and meaningful. Purpose in communication is more than clarity. It is alignment between thought, emotion, and action. When speech is purposeful, it directs attention, shapes perception, and inspires action. Words become instruments of influence, not fillers for silence. Speaking with purpose transforms ordinary conversation into guidance, teaching, and leadership that leaves a lasting impact. Purposeful speech begins with clarity of thought. Before articulating a message, it is essential to know what you intend to communicate. Many conversations meander because the speaker has not defined their objective. Thought without direction manifests as rambling, leaving listeners confused or disengaged. When the mind is focused, words follow naturally, creating coherence and authority. A message without clear intention is noise. A message aligned with purpose is power. Intent guides tone, structure, and rhythm. Speaking with purpose requires not just knowing what to say, but how to say it. Every inflection, pause, and cadence contributes to the reception of the message. Purposeful speakers craft their delivery to emphasize meaning, to draw attention to what matters most, and to ensure that their words resonate beyond the moment. Thoughtless delivery diminishes impact, while intentional delivery amplifies influence. Understanding the audience is fundamental. Purpose is not purely internal. It exists in the interaction between speaker and listener. Words are meaningful only when they reach the minds and hearts of others. To speak effectively, one must consider who is listening, what they value, and how they interpret messages. Tailoring speech to align with context, emotional state, priorities ensures that purpose translates into comprehension and engagement. Intentionality in language demands precision. Words carry connotations, subtle implications, and emotional charge. Careless phrasing can distort meaning, while deliberate choice clarifies it. Purposeful speech eliminates ambiguity, focusing on the core idea without distraction. Each word should serve the central goal of the communication, reinforcing the message rather than diluting it. The sharper the language, the more direct and effective the impact. Purposeful speech is grounded in authenticity. Audiences perceive sincerity instantly. Words delivered without genuine conviction fail to resonate. To speak with purpose, one must align words with values and beliefs. Authenticity builds trust, credibility, and emotional connection. A message delivered with conviction inspires confidence, while speech that conflicts with intention or principle fosters doubt. Purpose thrives when words are anchored in truth. Action orientation amplifies meaning. Purpose is not confined to expression. It seeks outcome. Speaking with purpose aims to inform, persuade, motivate, or guide toward tangible results. Each statement should be crafted to provoke thought, spark decision, or catalyze behavior. Directional language, actionable phrasing, and clear next steps convert abstract ideas into practical impact. Without the potential for action, words lose transformative power. The discipline of brevity enhances purpose. Extraneous words dilute meaning, distract attention, and reduce retention. Purposeful communication is concise and focused, emphasizing substance over volume. Silence and economy of language create space for ideas to breathe, allowing listeners to internalize and reflect. In a world overwhelmed by information, restraint becomes a tool of influence. Less spoken with precision often carries more weight than lengthy discourse filled with repetition. Purposeful speakers also anticipate response. Words do not exist in isolation. They interact with thought, perception, and emotion. Considering potential interpretations, objections, or questions ensures that language is proactive rather than reactive. Anticipatory communication demonstrates foresight, reduces misunderstanding, and aligns the audience with the intended trajectory. Speaking with purpose is as much about foresight as it is about expression. Emotional resonance is a critical component. Facts inform, but emotion motivates. Purposeful speech integrates feeling with content, connecting intellectually and emotionally. Words that inspire courage, empathy, or determination achieve influence beyond logic alone. When the emotional undertone aligns with intent, messages are internalized and acted upon. Purpose without emotional awareness risks being understood but ignored. Purposeful speech requires mindfulness. Every interaction presents the choice to speak meaningfully or to fill silence without intent. Awareness of context, timing, and impact guides the speaker to act thoughtfully. Reactive or impulsive speech rarely serves purpose. Measured, deliberate communication ensures that each word contributes to the overarching goal. Mindful presence transforms ordinary dialogue into deliberate influence. Consistency strengthens authority. Purposeful speech aligns with previous messages, actions, and values. Inconsistency undermines credibility, while coherence reinforces trust. The words spoken repeatedly with clarity and conviction shape perception, build reputation, and reinforce influence. Purpose becomes tangible when aligned over time, creating a recognizable pattern of intent and reliability. Narrative enhances impact. Humans understand ideas through stories, metaphors, and examples. Purposeful speech frames abstract concepts in relatable terms, providing structure that aids comprehension and retention. A well-crafted narrative guides listeners through understanding, embedding meaning deeply. Storytelling is not decoration. It is a vehicle for delivering intention with clarity and memorability. Speaking with purpose also requires adaptability. While intention guides communication, rigidity can alienate or confuse. Effective speakers monitor responses, adjusting phrasing, tone, or emphasis without compromising core intent. Flexibility ensures that purpose reaches the audience effectively, respecting their context while maintaining direction. Adaptation allows influence to thrive without losing authenticity. Reflection reinforces skill. Purposeful speakers evaluate outcomes. Did the words achieve the intended effect? Did the audience understand, act, or reflect as intended? Continuous reflection hones judgment, refines phrasing, and sharpens delivery. Speaking with purpose is not a static ability. It grows through experience, feedback, and conscious practice. The more deliberate reflection informs future communication, the more powerful and precise the influence becomes. Purposeful communication is a cornerstone of leadership. Leaders who speak with clarity, conviction, and intent inspire action, foster alignment, and cultivate trust. Direction without communication leaves teams aimless. Speech without purpose breeds confusion. By ensuring that every word carries intention, leaders translate vision into reality, guiding others with clarity and impact. Speaking with purpose also shapes culture. Words influence norms, expectations, and values within organizations, families, or communities. Purposeful language establishes priorities, conveys principles, and models behavior. Repeated intentional communication fosters shared understanding, strengthens cohesion, and promotes consistent action. The worlds created by purposeful speech extend far beyond the immediate conversation. Discipline underpins purpose. Impulse, distraction, or haste erode the intentionality of speech. Purposeful speakers cultivate habits that enhance clarity, timing, and delivery. Practices, such as pausing before responding, reflecting on the desired outcome, and structuring messages deliberately strengthen the capacity to influence effectively. Mastery is built in preparation, not improvisation. Ultimately, speaking with purpose transforms words into catalysts. Each sentence becomes a tool to clarify, inspire, guide, or elevate. Purpose integrates thought, emotion, and action into coherent expression, ensuring that communication is not random but strategic. Those who master this discipline wield language as a force for impact, shaping perception, fostering understanding, and driving meaningful change. Speaking without purpose dissipates energy. Speaking with purpose creates resonance, leaves lasting impressions, and shapes outcomes intentionally. Purpose transforms speech from a mere act into an instrument of influence, a bridge between intention and effect, and a force that directs reality itself.